Hello, I'm Kirby Dick, documentary filmmaker, and I have the pleasure of talking today with two filmmakers, Gastón Zilberman and Michael Salama, who have made a really wonderful film, a film that is very fascinating and visually stunning, and it's called Qotzuñi. Thank you for joining. Really looking forward to speaking with you. I guess my first question is, how did you come to this subject matter of this film? I mean, it's so unusual and stunning and surprising from the very first frame.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Kirby, for talking to us. It's a pleasure. And we came to this project when we were both in college. And I was in the region, Chile and Bolivia, studying for my undergraduate thesis, researching the interplay between mining, water access, and rural and indigenous communities in the Altiplano and Atacama region. And somebody said to me, a peer from my school who's from Oruro, which is the city nearest Lake Popo, which is the setting of Qotzuñi. They said, if you want to understand how mining impacts water access in a very vulnerable indigenous community, you have to go to Lake Popo. It was the second biggest lake in the entire country, and it's gone, right? There's no water in it. And so we kind of arrived, and Gaston and I kind of met because he was in Bolivia doing documentary photography, and we got put in touch. Um, and when we arrived to Lake Popo, kind of wanting to do this history piece about the lake, how it disappeared, we realized that it wasn't a history and it wasn't about the lake itself. It was about the people of the lake, the Uru indigenous nation, who had lived on its waters for hundreds of years, for their entire history, and about, Qotzuñi means people of the lake and how you continue being a person of the lake when that cultural epicenter completely vanishes. And so we thought the best way
Mm.
to bring this story to the world wasn't just, an undergrad thesis, it wasn't just a photography project, but we decided kind of with the community authorities that a documentary film had the chance to do it.
Fascinating. Gaston, do you have anything to add?
Well, that it was interesting that it was a trip that I did with the goal of searching for stories. And it was
Wow.
the right moment and right time in which Michael was in Bolivia. I'm from Argentina, neighbor, and I traveled the country for the first time, knowing that there was a lot of stories to be told, and especially connected to water-related issues and
Mm.
indigenous communities. That is stuff that I worked with before with NGOs, but more in an institutional filmmaking role and not doing a documentary short film. And we just kind of realized that that would be great. So we did the short film, also the photographic series, and also the thesis that uh, is what Qotzuñi is. That the short film is a part of a big impact project with the Uru community.
Um, yeah, I mean it's interesting. I mean it's interesting you say that you were looking for stories. I mean, I know that as a documentary filmmaker, I'm sure as a journalist, even as an academic, I mean that's such an important part of your work. So congrats to finding such an incredible story. Also, Michael, it's interesting just the concept that these people still consider themselves people of the lake, call themselves people of the lake, and there is no lake. I mean, it's an existential situation. I mean, how do they see themselves without a lake, yet still as a people of the lake? Can you elaborate on that more?
Absolutely. So throughout, I mean, you look back at the earliest documentation of like the Spanish conquistadors coming in, they would say,
Hmm.
they'd write down, okay, we came across the Inca Empire, but there's these other people who live on the lake. They live on like Titicaca and this lake that we'll call Popo. And they're the Urus. They live on these floating islands. So kind of always they've been a separate political and
Hmm.
ethnic entity,
Interesting.
even since before the Spanish arrived. And then that continued, that kind of separation. And that separation was because of their cultural and also kind of sustenance depending completely on the lake, that they were not part of Inca or then colonial society until much more recently. And so the way that they continue to preserve that cultural identity, it's because they feel that they've been alienated for centuries. And so they have these three communities have lost their language. There is a fourth that
Hmm.
continues to use it and is trying to bring it back to revive it. But they
Hmm.
also use artisanship to create these crafts that represent their past. It's also a continuation of a long history of artisan handicraft making. And then telling stories is another big way that they have these
Hmm.
folk tales
Huh.
about what life was like on the lake. Because something that was like really powerful was the fact that the oldest people lived their whole lives with the lake, and the
Right.
youngest in the community have not seen water in it, or at
Yes.
least not for an extended period of time. And it's very important to the older people. To preserve that Qotzuñi identity because it did set them apart. I mean, imagine somebody, telling you that what is the most defining part of who you are disappears. You would, of
Right.
course, want to try and not let that happen to the best of
Yeah.
your ability.
No, that's really interesting. So you came across this story and these people. How did you build a collaboration with them?
So it was mm, a meeting with the authorities that Michael had there that kind of was a first approach and of us explaining why we want to do this, right? They're
Mhm.
like, what are you doing here? Like what do you want to do? And we were like, we want to help you to take this story to the world. We know that we can't bring the water or life back to the lake,
Uh,
but we could, take some, documentation of what's happening here and make the world know that it's happening and not just as an isolated case, but it's a really powerful example of how climate change affects communities
sure.
and to use also this story to bring awareness and empathy, but also hoping that one day we could bring that material change to the community. And after, well, it's been 2 years since we filmed. Now we're able to develop a huge impact project to help them and to transfer that material change into their daily life and not just to leave it on the screen. So it was at first, like explaining why we wanted to do this and that we weren't just going to take some pictures and leave and never come back. And we were
Uh,
22 at the time. We were just two students from kind of close by from Argentina, the US, and we got along and they really connected with the goal of wanting to tell their story. And we're really grateful because I think that's the most important, maybe the most important part of the short film is them, how they open up to the film and to
right.
tell the story.
So were there initial suspicions? Were there concerns that they have from previous interactions?
Yeah,
And
yeah. Well,
how
I'm
did
gonna
you
add something
navigate that? Okay.
incredible. What the first night, I think it was, we got to the house where we were sleeping in the middle of the community.
Right.
The maximum authority, which today is our associate producer, was waiting for us, sitting on like one of our beds, like in
Uh-huh.
the middle of the night. It was like, whoa, whoa. It was a 3 hour incredible conversation that we had with him that also made us understand so much better the story. And he helped us, you should go talk to Ricardo in this town. You should go to talk to Felix in this town. And he was a big part of it. So it started really interestingly and made up to be what it is now.
On the topic of like previous interactions and their suspicions that they mentioned to
Yeah.
us,
Yeah.
like many people have come, right? This is not the first, the first people to come and say, "Wow, this lake disappeared. Let's tell the world about it."
Yeah.
But so many have come and they said, have taken our pictures, have taken our words, and have never come back, right? And so
Hmm.
we really wanted to buck that trend, and we promised even in writing to do so, right? So
Hmm.
they know that people have an interest in the visual and in the story, but not always an interest in, helping the community itself. And that's the kind of
Right.
exploitative storytelling that they recognize has been occurring and that we recognize
Uh-huh.
kind of occurs in the just in general. And we wanted to,
Right.
as much as possible, not do that.
And so then you chose a very distinct style, a very distinct visual style, and very cinematic, and also let the Urus themselves tell the story. Can you talk about how you came to that, and were there other things you were thinking about before other ways of approaching it before you settled on that?
A lot of people tell me that they see that I come from a photography background, and that kind of when I'm filming, I kind of do both at the same time. So you can see the photographic series that there are a lot of scenes that kind of are repeated, and some scenes come to life because of something that started as a video and others as an image for me sometimes. So I try to, with that approach, see which is the way that it's better told. If there's something moving, if there's not, if what's it. But I see kind of every shot as a image too, as a picture in that way because of my photography background. This is the first film I did. I hope it's not the last because I really like that interaction, because sometimes I ask if I should do photography or video, and it's like I'll try to do both as much as I can to have more to tell and more resources to do it. So it was the visual style that also everything was like kind of so flat, and that's why also we did it with the 2.35 aspect ratio. No, it's assault flat now. It's not a Lager. We don't have so much stuff and so much scenes such in depth to have that variety. So we didn't have so much time, so much resources. It was just me with my camera and Michael with the zoom, and we tried to do the best that we could. And we also said we could add experts, or like try to do it a little bit more in terms of traditional informative documentary. But we said, I think that all the interviews kind of say the same thing in different words of different people. And that's the message that we want to do it. So let's do it short, concrete, to chant and they are the best to tell that story, not us.
Sure.
Nobody outside of them. So we stuck with that. And I think it wasn't one of the main narrative decisions is not adding anything that it's not been said by them in the interviews.
Michael, anything on the style and
Yeah, I mean, well, the visual and the cinematography, that's all Gasti. He was really the lead in that. But I will say that I think something that lends to the power of the film is the kind of contradiction or the contrast between the tragic story, or hopefully also an uplifting story, but like a story of devastation and loss, but with beautiful imagery, right? Like even you said that it comes off as stunning, and everybody says, "Wow, such a gorgeous movie."
Right.
But the story itself is it's very difficult, right? It's an emotional and painful story, and I think that those two things happening at the same time maybe speaks to the resilience of the people, but also to the profound loss and, not just what is lost in Lake Popo and in the Uru community, but the beauty of the natural world in general, and how, whether it's climate change or industrial pollution and diversion of waters or whatever it is, when that destroys something so beautiful, it is a profound loss, no matter who it, occurs to, right? So I think that's another important aspect.
Yes, no, absolutely. So, I mean, you touched on this, but after the film is finished, this project is more than a film for you. Can you speak about the sort of whole scope of the project?
Well, it started as this photography project and thesis, and then it went to the film, and then we sent it to festivals, and we had the possibility of being in Dhaka NYC last year, and that opened us totally other level of and other scope of the project, because we won the grand jury prize. That was a big thing and a milestone in the project, because it gave us so many places to show it, and a lot of people that saw it that kind of wanted to help, and we were able to develop this impact project within the community, and asking and going back to them and saying, like, we know that we said that we were gonna publish the articles, which we did, but now we could actually help with stuff. So what are the things that you need
Mhm.
the most? And with a local impact coordinator named Theo, there in Bolivia, he goes back and forth to the community all the time. He lives a couple of like 2 hours away, and we built this huge impact project where we did three stages of help with family businesses trying to fund and support their businesses as an alternative because now the men have to work in the very same mines that caused their
Oh,
loss. So
interesting.
it's
Yeah.
try like we want to help with sustainable economic development, and also we're planning some infrastructural food security actions and trying to make the most out of the success of the film to bring it to material change. And apart from that, in these 2 years, we had like a long, also it's kind of a short that is living for a long time in with screenings and stuff. And we've screened in over 18 countries now, and that's the other part of our global impact goals because is we want as much people that we can to see it to create empathy and awareness and send this message that we're all people from the same lake, and it's not that it just dried up for the Urus. It's
Right.
kind of this
Yes.
sense of community.
But I mean, that's fascinating, and it's interesting because it even goes beyond the impact campaign. It seems like, I mean, you have well, first of all, just the collaboration from the very beginning, between a sort of if I could say so, an academic and a photographer. I don't know. I don't want to. I mean, I'm sure you're many other things as well, but
That's
that
accurate. That's accurate.
that intrigues me. That intrigues me. But then it's sort of that comes together for this really original piece, and then it's interesting to see how it kind of goes back out in that way. I mean, is it being used in what context is the film being used now?
Yeah, so a couple of different ones, right? So obviously the festivals, and that's for global awareness, but
Yeah.
it was also shown in the like there's a binational like agreement between Peru and Bolivia because Lake Titicaca, which is the
Hmm.
biggest lake in South America, I believe it's what should feed Lake Popo before its waters are diverted in between. And so
Oh.
the management of that entire basin is right between two countries. And so they did show the film in kind of an address to that body, that binational body. So
Hmm.
it was also shown to, I mean, in truth, the current president of Bolivia has seen this movie. The owner of the mine that is considered to be the one that is most responsible for the destruction of the lake has seen this movie. The congressperson who represents Popo in the region and the Urus has seen this movie. So we're trying to get it into the places where the exact people who have the power and responsibility to change the outcomes are aware and able to do so. Now, whether or not they do so, that's out of our hands
Yeah.
slightly, but we're really trying to use the film to put it there. And then we also show it to institutions and foundations. We're going to universities and high schools, but also like these kind of larger foundations that are impact oriented. And that's how we've raised, enough money to help with these goals on the ground. And then we are going to communities throughout the world and in the United States, specifically indigenous communities, to say this is a template. I mean, if this is happening, yes, in Bolivia, but this is happening here in the United States, in California,
Hmm.
in Utah, and Arizona, and Colorado, and across the world, and to say, look what just a 13-minute video has been able to do, right? And we didn't even have a filmmaking background. So how can we kind of share this template and this model for telling a story in a way that truly can bring change to a community? And I think that's a really important part of the impact campaign. It's sharing the entire process with other people and kind of
Hmm.
democratizing the storytelling of this kind of thing.
That's interesting. How did the sort of these powerful people in Bolivia, did you get any response from them at all? At all?
Yes. So they really appreciated the film, and they appreciated that us as foreigners were interested in helping advocate for the people of Bolivia. Um, and especially the congressperson was very interested in kind of bringing it to the Senate or the equivalent of the Senate
Mm.
that she's in. And I mean, unfortunately, the owner of the mine wasn't as keen to take responsibility. And
What was his reaction?
to be completely honest, his reaction was, so there's three kinds of mines. There's the state-owned mines, there's the private mines, which is this one, and there's cooperative mines. And his reaction was, look how the current government, which is now the previous
Hmm.
government, has failed the state-owned mines. And it's true that the state-owned are big
Yeah,
polluters. And the cooperative mines are owned by the people, they're not regulated. And therefore, we need more private mines. Right. So that was kind
exactly.
of his conclusion, which unfortunately is not the message we want to spread. We're not taking a political
Of
or
course.
policy stance with this. But I think, you know, I think having him see that and connect with the people that
Right.
were impacted directly was still very important.
Yes, I agree. I agree. How about the Urus? What were their reaction? I'm sure they've seen the film, right? And what were their
Yeah,
reaction? What was that first screening like? And
well,
describe this, set it up.
it's a thing that we send it to them. They saw it, they
Okay.
were happy with it, but we didn't do a screening yet. We plan it for January now into 2026, going back to the community. It's not their priority, like the film and where it's
Sure.
being shown. They care much more about this funding that came through for their family businesses and how, how this could actually change their lives because it's not as impactful maybe for us. We were saying, oh, we have, I don't know, today we have four, like it's happening right now, November 15, we've had four screenings in Ushuaia, in south of Argentina, in La Plata, and also Spain, and also in St. Louis. But they don't really care that much about that as maybe
Hmm.
the documentary world could, because they really care about how that changes their daily day life. So we're going back also, but we will make that screening. It's something that we've been planning for a while. We wanted to go in March, but they couldn't receive us. Then we wanted to go in July and we couldn't go. So it's something that we're really happy to do, and also, make a follow up on the story and keep. I don't know if making other short, but for sure taking some pictures and communicating
Right.
about what's happening in these 2 years.
So, I mean, you mentioned this being a template. I'm curious, are you collaborating on other projects, and can you talk about them?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really, we won't go into depth on what some of the other projects are because we're not sure exactly which one is going to pan out completely. But we're working, I mean, we're contacting, especially through this kind of outreach and workshop model that we're trying to set up in the US. We're working with a number of Native and Indigenous communities that that have their own water issues. For
Hmm.
example, in California and the Owens Valley, which is where it's the
Hmm.
source of much of LA's water, which is actually
Right.
diverted from another lake there that's completely dry.
Yes.
There's the Salton
Interesting.
Sea and the native communities around there, and then I mean, there's quite a few that we're in contact with. We just screened in Red Nation Film Festival, which is the largest Native and Indigenous film festival in the country. I mean, that was really, really fascinating because people in the audience came to me after and they said, I drove from, this reservation 2 hours away because I was interested in
Hmm.
this because we face such
Hmm.
similar issues. And so now we're in contact with them and trying to see, what kinds of things we can set up. And the hope is, I mean, of course, Gaston and I want to make more films on this topic or on others. But the hope is that people can tell their own stories, right? That we're not the only ones who are going to go and we're going to film you and then we're going to bring it to a festival. No, we want everybody to be able to do it, right? We're hoping to share that like I said, that template, and not just in the U.S., also across the world.
Yeah. So this has been incredible. Is there anything I missed? Anything else you'd like to say? Uh, Last words, anything?
It's pretty interesting to have the possibility of understanding every day a little bit more about this documentary world, and all the
Uh-huh.
specificisms and the festivals, and all about the runs and stuff. And it's really interesting because we didn't know about this at all now, but we really see all this exposition as a way, and maybe the biggest way, to achieve that global impact of
Mhm.
making the world know about this story. And again, there's people of the lake that we did, but there's people from everywhere, from that happens the same things in the mountains, in the cities, in I don't know, the rivers, in everywhere. So try and keep telling that stories, and also we try to make a call to action of understanding that these stories exist everywhere.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the message, that we're all from the same lake.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a very, very powerful message. Well, good luck with the film. More importantly, good luck with the entire campaign. I'm sure at some point you'll document that, but I think that's actually a campaign that can be very instructive to filmmakers and especially to young filmmakers, I think, to get them oriented toward the film is more than just exists just in the film world or in the documentary world. And I think this is a very interesting model for that. So thank you for putting that out there. Thank you for making both. Thank you for making the film and good luck with it.
Thank you so much, Kirby. It was really a pleasure to talk with you about it.